It is now 7:02. I'd like to call to order the Charter Township of Oxford's Zoning Board of Appeals special meeting for Monday, August the 15th, 2016. If everyone please stand up and pay respects to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The recording secretary note the roll.
Noted.
Moving on to approval of the agenda. Any changes, modifications needed? If not, make a motion, please.
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to the approval of our regular, approval of minutes from our regular meeting of June the 13th, 2016. I did go through them. I didn't see anything that caught my eye. Anyone?
No. Neither did I.
Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes of June 13th, as noted.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Moving on to item number 6, which is public comment for items not on this evening's agenda. So if anyone in the public would like to speak on a non-agenda item, please come forward and do so. Seeing none, we'll move on to our regular business. Just for purposes of disclosure, the applicant who is before you this evening, my company did the initial survey when he purchased the property. I have no business relationship with him currently. I'm not doing anything actively with him. We have no involvement with this project, so just wanted to disclose that before we went forward. ZBA 007.16 signage, parcel 04-22-101-003, 925 North Lapeer Road, doing business as the Legacy Center, the owner Christian Mills, address 118 Indianwood Road, Lake Orion, Michigan 48362. The subject property is located in a C2 General Commercial Zoning District, located on the west side of Lapeer Road, across from the Myers. Approval of the application as submitted would require a variance according to the ZBA zoning ordinance 67A, article 9.8J, wall signs in a non-residential district. Before we get started, we do have a procedure that we do follow. There are 10 items that we look forward. One, the applicant will give a statement. Second, we'll open a public hearing for members of the audience that wish to speak on this. Second and third, we'll take comments and questions from the public. Fourth, I will close the public hearing. Fifth, we'll entertain any building administrator's comments. Six, board members' questions and comments. Number 7, we'll hold a findings of fact pursuant to Article 17, Section 17.8C. There'll be a motion. There'll be board member discussion and comments, and then there'll be a vote. So, the applicant is here. Please come forward. Explain to us what you're here for.
Hi, good evening. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for their time tonight and consideration for this project. My name is Christian Mills. I'm the owner of the Legacy Center. We are putting a family center here in Oxford at 925 Lapeer Road. We're requesting a variance for the signage. We do not have a conforming option, and so I wanted to give you our presentation and reasoning behind that. So I just wanted to start out by, part of this I'm going to read, so it's a little technical, and wanted to go over this PowerPoint presentation with you. That's appropriate this time.
Fair enough, thank you.
Okay. Basically, due to the unique circumstances of the pre-existing limitations of the property, we're respectfully requesting a variance of the zoning ordinance 67A, Article 9J, as it pertains to the height, width, and total area of wall signs in the building. Requesting that the current height, width, and total area coverage of current artwork on the building be permitted as is and considered changeable copy. So if for some reason we have a tenant who leaves or we have to change a wall sign, we're able to do that. The successful redevelopment of this is otherwise obsolete building is contingent upon the ability to market the current use to the community and therefore benefiting the surrounding property owners and the economic impact to the community as a whole. Compliance with the existing ordinance would be a great burden due to the fact that no other sign options are viable and would therefore hinder the property owner to successfully use the property as permitted. You know, when I started to look at the ordinance, although we are non-conforming, we do meet most of the purpose of the sign ordinance. So I'm just going to read through a few of these. To provide the safety of drivers and pedestrians by controlling distractions and impairments to visibility. Our signage limits distractions with less sign clutter, lights, images that represent multiple tenants with one image. To render the area attractive to travelers, where current artwork is pleasing, family-friendly, has been very well received by the residents. Protect residents from annoyances, provide any annoyance-free advertisement. You know, there's not a lot of flashing lights, et cetera. Protect the public health, safety, welfare, and property values. This project, we feel, significantly increases the property values of both commercial and residential in the surrounding area. Shall not endanger life and limb. Doesn't endanger life or limb because it's just paint. Shall not confuse or mislead traffic. Our signs are very clear. They're easily identifiable, safe, less clutter, and you don't really have to look twice. Shall not obstruct vision necessary for vehicle or pedestrian traffic. It doesn't obstruct the vision of drivers or pedestrians at all. And shall not endanger public welfare. It's safer for pedestrians and drivers due to size and easy of swift identification. So that's the main purpose that Article 9 was set out to accomplish. Just a little description on what this building is. First of all, it's a very unique part of our property. I don't think there's another commercial property quite like it. You know, everyone tries to fit it into a box, but it really doesn't belong in a box. We're kind of a hybrid between multi-tenant and multi-structure. So most of the commercial property in Oxford, you'll see a single tenant, single layer structure. Where you have a tenant up front, they may access the back. This is unique because of the confines of the building. It's a converted manufacturing building, and we have layered tenants. So if you're a tenant in the back or in the middle, you certainly have a hard time being represented on the front of the building. So we call this a hybrid multi-tenant building for that purpose. It is a unique development because there's been no one in the community or surrounding area, maybe even in Oakland County, or I know they have old conversions here, but certainly in the surrounding area where someone has taken the magnitude of this project and, you know, revamped an old dilapidated manufacturing building. And so it wasn't originally built for tenants, but we're really being creative and trying to have tenants in this building that will be successful, even though we're kind of locked into an existing structure. 80% of our tenants in Legacy Center have individual entrances. 20% of them share a common entrance, so it's not a mall either, where you have one entrance and multiple tenants within the building. So part of the requirements going to the Zoning Board of Appeals is finding of facts. And we meet most of these requirements, or all of these requirements, according to our opinion. You know, the Zoning Board of Appeals shall make findings of fact based on the competent evidence that practical difficulty has been demonstrated in accordance with the standards of zoning ordinance 67A. The following are the standards upon which a ZBA will be based for variance. So we meet these standards. Section 17.8 C1, strict compliance with restrictions governing area, setback frontage, height, bulk density, or other non-use matters will unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or will render the ordinance conformity unnecessarily burdensome. And it does. Because of the MDOT property line, which is unique to this property, it butts up right next to the building. In some areas, kind of goes through it all the way through the side. Let me see if you can see the picture here. So, if the variance is not granted, we unreasonably prevent our businesses from using the property for a permitted purpose and will be unnecessarily burdensome for these reasons. So the entire M24 frontage is currently a pre-existing, non-conforming MDOT right-of-way, and therefore eliminates the options of a monument or canopy signage. Due to the size, scale, and number of tenants in the building having individual signage, it would be excessive and unreasonable to put signs representing each tenant within the building on the east side of the building. Section 17.8C2, the variance will do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners. The redevelopment of the building has had a huge economic impact in the community and adjacent property owners. Successfully being able to market all the businesses in the building is imperative to the future success of the development. The current signage offers a less cluttered and appealing option as opposed to each tenant being represented individually. The imagery has family-friendly, positive, and welcoming. We're creating an Oxford landmark and a destination point. So again, to reiterate, when you have this kind of stacked approach within the building, to have a conforming sign for each tenant in itself is non-conforming. So the imagery in the building represents multiple tenants. So it's a feeling, people understand there's family entertainment, there's activity there, and so it's a critical part of the design of this property. Section 17.8C3, a lesser variance than requested will not give substantial relief to the applicant and will not be more consistent with justice to the other property owners. All of the surrounding property owners, to the best of our ability, we have a number of letters signed, complimenting us for the property. McDonald's is very pro-Legacy Center. Our tenants or our neighbors across the way, so we have a number of letters which we can read if necessary at the end. The property marketing the businesses within the Legacy Center is imperative to the success of the redevelopment. You know as well as we do that if people don't know what you're doing, they're not going to come. So, this signage is non-conforming however we slice it. We can't use an awning sign. The Legacy Center has layered small business approach, so unfairly restricts marketing other businesses inside the building, not on the northwest west wall and interior of the building. So we don't meet the setback requirements of more than 15 feet. So the overhang would be in the MDOT right away. So if we wanted to put a awning, we couldn't because we don't meet the setbacks, and it still doesn't represent accurately the other tenants in the building. Rooftop signs, structural support of the roof is a safety concern. The ordinance allows for 1 foot from the top and does not represent all the businesses in the building. So to put a 1 foot sign on the roof of the building all the way across, we have the same issues as it relates to something that's conforming that represents all of the business owners in the building, and frankly, it's a safety concern. It's one of the windiest areas in the area. We have huge snow drifts. There's a tremendous amount of wind and snow coming from the west side, heading east. Monument sign, freestanding signs. Again, we don't own the property. We're right in the MDOT property right away, as you can see. There's no place to put a sign in front of the building. We don't meet the setback requirements, we don't own the property, and wouldn't be large enough to hold 35 different tenants. So when you talk about a safety concern, someone driving by at 45, 50 miles an hour trying to read a monument sign with 1 post, of a business name wouldn't do those businesses justice. The size and scale of the current artwork makes it easy to read by trailers. The pictures tell the story without being a distraction. The family-friendly imagery is not only attractive, but also creates a sense of safety for the community. So section 17.8 C4, the need for the variance is due to the unique circumstances peculiar or particular to the property and not generally applicable in the area or to other properties in the same zoning district. I think we can all agree that this is a unique circumstance, it's a unique property, it's a unique development, and unlike any other properties in Oxford, it deserves specific consideration. And we have pre-existing limitations, different than if we were to redevelop this building from scratch. The unique one-of-a-kind, once dilapidated building that represents the northern gateway to the Oxford community has been brought back to life with creative repurposing. The property currently abuts the MDOT right-of-way, therefore leaving wall signage as the only option. Due to the number of tenant size and scale of this unique building, the current wall sign ordinance provisions would make the signage ineffective and therefore compromise the success and welfare of the tenants. The failure of the Legacy Center redevelopment and its businesses located within would have an enormous negative impact on the community and adjacent property owners. You know, I think the investment in this building, and later on, you know, I'll share with you some of the support that we've gotten, but it's critical. You know, as an entrepreneur, if you want to invest in the restaurant across the street that's been vacant for 2 years, you're looking at other entrepreneurs who are investing in the community to see if they're successful. And so if someone who puts millions and millions of dollars into a project and it fails, everyone's going to have a second thought on whether they're going to invest their money, maybe for a different purpose, but for business reasons. So the success of our business is all of our success. It's not just Christian Mills, a Legacy Center, you know, or the businesses within. It's the entire community. Section 17.8 C5, the problem and resulting need for the variance has not been self-created by the applicant and the applicant's predecessors. The building was built in, 1959. The east side of the building currently abuts a pre-existing MDOT right-of-way. And we have restrictions with, the dimensions and size of the building that's been there part of the development. And those are the challenges in trying to redevelop an existing property. So the area variance, that we're asking for obviously is, to leave the imagery as it is. We understand that, it doesn't meet the current sign ordinance, but it certainly meets the purpose. And I think if you look at our presentation, it really meets the standards for your decision to say yes. We also have a number of other examples in the community. Let me see if I can. So as far as the imagery and design, it's pretty tasteful, and it's something that's happening, around the country, actually. This is something that is part of the mall, which you've probably already been there. Locally in Oxford, this is the Village. They approved a mural, one of the new businesses that have come in town, and it's something that some progressive communities have been doing for a while. The variance request, just respectfully, we ask that you meet this request. It is a unique circumstance, it's a unique development, it's a cornerstone within the Oxford community, and to not approve our request today would create great hardship for us and the businesses who've invested their life savings in trying to develop within the center. The successful redevelopment of this otherwise obsolete building is contingent upon the ability to market the current use to the community. This benefits the surrounding property owners, provides a significant economic impact to the community as a whole. Compliance with the existing ordinance would be of great burden, and no other sign options are viable, therefore hindering the property owner and business owners' successful use of the property as permitted. And the last part of this, I just wanted to share with you, we had asked for kind of community opinion. I'm on a board in Lake Orion. Part of what our objective is to serve, the community and what their feelings are and what their requests are. So we set up a change.org Facebook. Many of you have probably seen it. It was a petition just to ask people what their opinion was and if they supported it. And we had over 2,500 signatures online, majority of them being Oxford residents. But interestingly enough, residents from an hour-and-a-half radius making comments about their visit to the Legacy Center, really proving our point that this is a destination point for Oxford. So I wanted to just go over a couple of these comments, if I may.
Please.
Okay. So these are all the signatures. I think you guys have copies of them.
We do.
I think it's pretty significant. So letters from surrounding businesses, if you care for me to read them, or you can read them, at your point. But so Hannah Schroeder, Oxford, Michigan, love the improvements of the building, fun and artistic vibe it brings. I also own a business here and depend on the signage to attract customers. Megan Buckley, the building looks so much better than it used to. The artwork is better than a ton of signage with small print on the road, blocking the view of the road and making it difficult to see around when entering and exiting the parking lot. Rather than try and destroy something that improves the look of the building, Amy, Winanaki, Oxford, Michigan. They need to have signage on the building showing customers who's in there. It might as well be fun because that's what catches someone's eye. If you want tax base, you need advertising. Without advertising, these businesses will fail. Ms. Folks, they are fun. My kids enjoy it. There are so many kids and families in Oxford that really enjoy it. Also, I would have never known what was inside it wasn't for the signage/art. I think it looks great after all these years of being vacant and littered with for sale signs and lease signs. Now it's a very nicely manicured. The area is changing, and it's a good thing, right? Great use for such a large space. Kudos to the brains behind the thought. Grace Johnson, the murals are what draw people's attention into these places. I know for one, when these were being put up, all I could think about is, this is cool, I can't wait to go in. It brings character to Oxford. It shows how we are as a community. I can't imagine if this center was just blank gray wall. I, for one, know I wouldn't spend my time there because it wouldn't feel the same. So we actually have over 600 of these comments in support of the building from, surrounding residents. So anyway, I just want to thank you very much for your time and open it up if you have questions, or maybe that will be later.
Sure. Thank you very much. Board members, questions of Mr. Mills?
We're going to do public comment first, or questions now?
I was going to ask if you have any questions of him, then we'll start public comment.
Okay, I just want to clarify for the record, in terms of additional signage, in addition to the murals and the paintings that we see on the building, will there be monument, freestanding, window, or door signs?
In addition to that,
Yes.
I think people are putting their hours or maybe some information on the glass doors. And the monument sign, I don't think we would have a monument sign at this point, because it is non-conforming, and I don't see that it would bring value.
Freestanding sign? Any other freestanding signs?
No.
And the window signs, I know you've got the doors that are windows, in addition to any of the other windows that you have, will they have signage?
Yeah, none of the other windows have signs on the outside. It's really just the doors, or, what I'm seeing now, for example, they might have an open sign, that's in their window with some hours to it. And we have one potential tenant, there's like one vacant space that would be an additional sign to represent that potential tenant.
Which businesses have their own entrance and which ones share entrances? And which of the shared ones do the businesses relate to on the list that you gave us?
Let's see.
This is the comprehensive list. Yeah, maybe you can just go through them and,
Sure. Gymnastics has its own entrance, which is Great Lakes Energy Zone. I'm sorry. These are just the images. So, the Kids Energy Zone has its own entrance. Urban Air has its own entrance.
hold on, I can't take notes, okay.
Kind of going around the building here, we have the Yo Club.
Which one?
The Yo Club.
I'm looking for that on this list.
H.
Thank you.
And then we have Soothe Your Soul and Latitude 42. They do not have their own entrance.
Latitude and Soothe Your Soul, do they share an entrance?
Well, they go through the main entrance on the south side, and their entrance is on the hallway.
I guess maybe let's just identify the ones that have their own entrance. So I have the Great Lakes Energy Zone, Urban Air, and the Yo Club.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any others?
Oh, Urban Air does not have its own entrance. Yeah. Splash doesn't have its own entrance. Oh, they do, yep.
Splash does?
Cracked.
I'm sorry.
Cracked. It's, Feel Your Life Cafe has its own entrance.
Yeah, I'm looking for it on the list.
It's L.
Which one is it?
L, Feel Your Life
L,
Cafe.
Feel Your Life Cafe.
Yes.
That's the one?
Health Quest has its own entrance. The Den has its entrance.
Swimmer, does swim, or is that shared with the common hallway there?
That's shared with a common hallway. Are you referring to the image or the business?
No, just the businesses.
Okay. Splash has its own entrance.
It's not on here.
I'm just not on here, that's why I'm looking for it.
They don't have signage.
I'm sorry?
They have signage.
They don't have signage.
That's just a list of the images on the building. They don't have
So
Images
Splash,
and
which is the
signs,
use.
And then
I'm just
legacy.
trying to identify how many separate businesses have their own individual entrances, because our ordinance is somewhat tied to that.
Right.
And then of the rest, how many entrances do they share?
Doesn't Legacy Ignite have 5? The small ones on the north end?
Yeah, we have, well, it just depends on how the tenants kind of shake out. So we haven't, filled the rest of
I guess
that
we say,
building.
how many are left divided by how many entrances would kind of give me an estimate? That's kind of just the number I'm looking for as an overall one on that.
Well, I can tell you who's on the inside that doesn't have their own entrance. And then the rest of the building is left to be developed. So, for example, in the micro units, you can take the front, or you can take the back, or you can take both. So it depends on who rents what. But we have PKS, Hey Karate. We have Escape, Extraordinary Ventures, Be Organic, Bulls Boxing.
And then all the way through our tenants, like Baby Tree Company.
I stopped at boxing.
You gotta speak so she can hear you.
So we're gonna have Davy Tree Company.
Which one?
Can you give me your name, please?
They're not on there yet.
Could you give me your name,
Oh,
please?
my name is Jennifer Gear.
Thank you.
Okay, boxing, and what's after that?
Bulls Boxing, and then we have Davy Tree Company,
Okay.
and then we're gonna have Iconic Cleanse.
Gardens, you said?
Cleanse,
Okay, cleanse.
Legacy Partners Insurance.
They'll have their own.
So you taking the other one?
So they're,
Are all
Currently.
of these sub-uses already have their plans submitted with the township? I mean, these are all ones that have been approved for
yes,
individual.
that's correct. And then depending on how the rest of the building is developed, we might have, 15 more, or we might have 3 more. Some people will take 10,000 square feet with an exit. Some people will just take 800 square feet on an internal wall. So we haven't finished, developing the north side of the inside of the building.
Okay, so just from what I have, if I heard right, there's 8 entities with separate entrances and 8 that share different entrances.
Well, we have offices or entities that are set but aren't leased too. So if you're talking about a space that has a door, but doesn't have a tenant yet, so, those would be taken into consideration as well.
I guess I'm looking for, if this is still in flux, that makes it a little more complicated, but in terms of how many separate units or separate tenants you're going to have in the building.
I don't know the answer to that.
Do you
But-
plan on coming back to add more signage for these others when they come in?
Well, on the inside of the building, they'll have signage on the inside of the building, but we won't be adding, signage for, karate on the outside of the building.
I guess I'm really trying to lock this down. You're asking for this at one point in time.
Yes.
If you're considering coming back later to add more, that's a whole nother thing. If you're saying, no, we're doing this, and this is it, then that's something else.
Yeah, we're not asking for a moving target. So to answer your question, part of the reason why we have these signs or these imageries is to represent, people on the inside of the building without putting an individual business name. So, we have one more tenant, two more tenants on the east side, but we would probably erase some current copy, and that's why we ask for changeable copy, and fill their name or logo in that space. I'll give you a good example. Soothe Your Soul.
Mhm.
So Soothe Your Soul, there's a woman who's in a yoga posture. So we'll probably replace the woman in the yoga posture with, a Soothe Your Soul sign. So it wouldn't take any more of our signage space. It would just be changing what might be there.
That's helpful. Just to get an idea of what it is we're looking at, because I know I've been doing this a long time, and things change in time, and it's nice to know we had those questions asked now
Yes.
instead of later. Because if you wanted that later, that's something we would, consider now.
I think that we've done a very tasteful job of trying to, represent the businesses there without making it distasteful while trying to represent multiple businesses. So we'd ask for maybe a little bit of latitude, because if I have businesses in the office space on the north that aren't there yet, they deserve some sort of signage. But I'm willing to limit that per the door or, with your recommendation.
Yeah, my question is just geared to try and understand what's there now so that when I make a decision, it's based on,
What's there?
how many businesses, what your plan is, and
I think it's fair to say that 90% of the copy on the building would remain the same.
okay. And then lighting on the murals and the wall signs, will they be lit? Or
We're
will some be
actually,
lit? How many will be lit?
we're going to have we have a lighting plan, that's been presented as part of our site plan.
I know.
So-
We've been looking for it.
Yeah. And so I think that we're adding another X number of lights on the top of the building in a staggered way. So my intention isn't to individually light a mural, but there'll be, lights appropriately staggered based on the lighting requirements for the building.
So, yes, you intend to light them, but it's on a lighting plan that's not been submitted to this board.
It was submitted. We intend to light the building because there's some lights that aren't working properly.
Okay.
So the front of the building will be lit.
So that was on that second plan that you gave us, that was part of the site plan?
That's correct.
I guess I didn't look close enough for the lighting grid on that, sorry about that. That's all I have question-wise for now.
Thank you.
Any other board members, questions?
I guess that maybe you can reiterate what the entrances that she was asking for, which were the door signs that you're looking to have on, and the windows that are there, as well as, I guess I just didn't get a real good understanding of that. It looked like you wanted to have signs on the doors, as well as an additional tenant sign. No windows, monument, or freestanding signs are going to be part of this variance that you're looking for, right?
That's correct.
So with the signages that are on the doors, with separate entrances, I didn't get a real good handle on what that was. Maybe you can reiterate that, or maybe, as well as a central, you have main entrances, there's a couple of them, right? So where you have multi-tenants that are coming in.
There are
So
three
just,
main
I think
entrances.
just the ones that Kaylee was asking for were the entrances that were specifically for a business that would be part of the variance.
Yes,
Can you help?
sure.
Because I didn't get it. I was trying to write it down too, and I don't know if we got it
Yeah, I
really
think it's
handled.
clear.
Initially, I was planning on kind of getting that after the public comment too, to kind of like
Okay.
really isolate what is where, so we have it locked in.
So if there's an individual entrance, currently they might put their hours of operation
Sure. or
some information on that door. And that's kind of yes, it's a good example. We've been giving the tenants latitude to, represent their business from that perspective. But as far as signage above the door, that will remain, the way it is currently. And then the other businesses that go into the main entrances, so anything that isn't related to, that's a shared door, there won't be additional signage on those doors.
Okay, so if I add my tally up, you had Great Lakes Energy Zone was an entrance, single entrance business, Urban Air. The Oak Club-
Urban Air is not a single
Urban Air
entrance.
does not.
Urban Air, no.
No.
They have their
Okay.
own entrance.
They're inside.
They're inside and they use a
You said they have their own.
main entrance.
We use
right?
the main south
Multi-
entrance, and then we have a separate
Yes.
entrance on the inside.
And I had the Oak Club was a separate entrance, so that's 2.
Correct?
Health Quest is a separate entrance,
Yes.
3. Fuel Your Life was an entrance, that's 4.
Yes.
The Den,
Uh,
separate entrance?
Yeah, it's a main thoroughfare, but they consider that a separate entrance.
Okay. So that's 5, and Splash has an entrance by itself too, right? So-
Splash has its own entrance,
So that's
correct?
6 total, right?
But Splash is also around the back of the building.
On the rear of the building, not facing the street at all.
That's correct.
Then you have those Ignite buildings, those Ignite units.
Okay, so that's 7.
Yeah, but there are 5 doors there.
Yeah.
There's 5 doors there. So you'd have 5 separate entrances.
Yeah.
These,
Yeah, I got those.
so you have 5.
You should have a map.
Okay, so 5 total,
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have a map of the,
plus 2 main. Which is 7, right?
Yeah, so you have these 5.
this is kind of frozen here.
But then, so you have
5 total plus 2 main entrances.
Yeah, this is helpful.
Yeah, I have these pictures too, right?
Yeah.
Some of the entrances don't have a
Just
a sign or anything on those. so-
Tenants in them.
Okay.
So she had asked me about existing tenants, so
Back
just
on
to
the
be
mic.
clear.
So are you clear on your question?
I think so. If you concur, it's 5 entrances separate for businesses and 2 main entrances, so that's 7 total entrances that we're looking at.
There's 3 main entrances. One is around the,
3 main.
one is around the west side.
Okay.
Which, when we talk about the layered approach to, even though they don't have they may have their own entrance, but they also need to be represented.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bailey, any questions?
Not at this time, but I will.
Dollars? So this came to us as a violation from the zoning code enforcement officer, right? You didn't apply for a permit to do this?
No.
You're asking for, if I look at what was submitted, square footage total for everything that you show, including the images of 6,936 square feet, which you state requires a variance of 3,186 square feet. But that doesn't include the one for splash, does it? Because it's not in the list.
That's correct.
Do you have any idea what size splash is going to be? Is it going to meet the 150, or is it going to exceed that as well?
Well, the splash will not be on the, I guess it would be around the back, right? So I think that he was probably looking to, put like a fish or something on that blue wall. I'm not sure.
Okay, Sarah, challenge here is we have all these images and this is moving and that is moving. We're trying to lock this down presents the challenge for us.
Yes.
The fact that it was done without a permit, that's somewhat troublesome, but we'll get past that, I'm sure, somehow, some way. Any other questions? With that, we'll start the public comment, starting at 7:44. Members of the public that would like to speak about this, please come forward, give us your name and your address and your comments. That would be great. Yes, good evening.
Mary Ann Keynes, I'm on the Stony Lake Condo Village Association Board here in Oxford, and we are close residents to the Legacy Center, so we just wanted to be represented this evening. We are actually in concurrence with the Legacy Center's wall signs, simply because we felt that a freestanding or a monumental type sign would be a distraction to drivers on Lapeer Road, as well as if it was lit, it would also be an evening distraction to our residents. And we are not in favor of any type of roof signs as well, because that would, again, in the evening, impact our view of the Duels Lake and the quietness and the peacefulness of our area right now. So looking at the wall signs as being the only way that the individual occupants of that building could advertise their businesses would be like the lesser of the evils, not looking at monumental signs or roof signs or freestanding signs of any kind around the building. However, our concern still is, and it was mentioned a little bit earlier in your discussions, was that it's not a stable plan right now, so it might be a little premature to approve it when only, as stated by Mr. Mills, 90%, there's still another 10%. The one of which we're concerned is the splash, because that exit is right in our backyard, and if there would be anything of lit, that would be of lighting issue, or, what kind of fish might be as we just heard this evening, might go up there, will it be tasteful? Because because we look, from our backyards, we're going to be looking at that for quite a long time. So that is just our concern is the lighting plan that might impact the building wall signs, also the unstableness of what might still be forthcoming that we're not privy to, whether he would have to get pre-approval before that could be painted, or a permit would have to be received before that painting, since it hasn't been previously. What's done right now is tasteful and colorful, but we don't know how things will be and how many new businesses may choose to rent space there, and so we could have a significant amount of additional signage. And if I was a business and I see that some other businesses have their sign on the wall painted, I certainly would maybe want the same thing, and that's not taking place right now. That doesn't mean it might not take place in the future. So we just wonder what kind of limitations or what type of approval process might be in place so that it will remain tasteful, not be overcrowded, and that type of thing. And again, we're just a little concerned about what might be facing us in the rear of the building, those businesses, because we will see that from our backyard area. And we weren't sure when this meeting, if it's just individual wall signs, or if we're talking any additional signs on that parcel of land, because the other issue we have is, right now, there isn't currently any signage saying that there's no access to the lake, and we are having folks coming down and using the lake, and there is no security guard or any kind of patrolling going on with liability issues and what have you. So we didn't know if there was any plan for additional signage asking patrons not to go down to the lake, since it's not developed there at this time, and whether that falls under this signage meeting or that's an additional site plan meeting, I'm not quite sure, but I did want to bring that point up as a concern from our board. We thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to come forward and provide comment?
Hi, my name is Joe Krasuski, and I live right behind the Legacy Center. And I think you guys they're doing a fine job. And I don't know how, see, that's going to be distraction on the highway on 24 when they're going over 50, 60 miles an hour. That's true. So if they're going to put lights up at night, it'd be a big thing so people can see what's going on at night. And you go in McDonald's, you can see them all. Okay, but I don't think there's going to be any distraction. Maybe the splash, if you're going to have the splash out in that lake, you got to have guards. And that lake is a drop-off lake. That's a gravel pit lake. You go out 3 or 4 feet and you're down. So if they're going to go out, they're going to either have to wear life vests, have guards. No, I'm serious. It is. My neighbor walked out, he tied his rope to a tree, tied it to him, he walked out about 3 or 4 feet, and he dropped down 5, 6 feet. So that's the only way you're going to protect people from, getting drowned. Once they go down, that lake is dark, you can't see. But as for the rest of the building, I think it's a lot better than what it was before. And they spruced it up. And everything else to it. I like it. But if you're going to go to the splash, they got to have lifeguards out there and gates, fence open, closed all the way, because people are coming in from McDonald's over there to go fishing. So all that's got to be closed at night, so nobody else will go back there and swim. That's I can see the only way to bypass that. If you have the lifeguards out there that knows what they're doing, and like I said, you can put a rope, have this as far as you can go, like in Lake Orient, like in Stony Lake, they have a section blocked off for the kids can go playing because they got the boats. And, it'd be a terrible shame because I think it'd be a great idea. But
Thank you.
nobody likes my views.
Thank you for your comments. The issue of access to the lake and lifeguards is really not the purview of this board. That's not this function of this board. But thank you for your comments. Yes, ma'am.
Karen Keller from Stony Lake Drive. I'm in full support of the Legacy Center. It certainly is a real asset to the community. I've lived around here for a long time, over 50 years, and it's so nice to see it. When somebody drives by, it's easy to see what's there. It doesn't distract you as far as traffic. You can glance at it and see where, if you look down the street a little ways, where we have the White House Village, it has a mass of little teeny signs. You can't even read them because as you go by, you're going too fast, traffic's passing. But with the Legacy Center, I think it's very appealing, it's attractive, it's something new, it's different, and it's going to put Oxford on a map. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to make comment? One at a time.
Hi, my name is Brian Prather. I live in the village of Oxford with my son and with my wife. I asked my son earlier today what he thought about the old building and what he thought about it now, and when I asked him about the old building, he said that it looked like an old abandoned factory where shifty gangs would hang out. Now, I don't know that I would have chosen those exact words, but I think the spirit of it is kind of in line with a lot of what a lot of us would have felt about the way that the old building looked. You know, it's an old factory that looked pretty, kind of shady, kind of run down or whatever. I asked him what he thought about the new building. He said, well, it looks a lot better. It looks exciting. It looks like a safe place. I like the colors, this kind of stuff. My wife feels the same way, and I feel the same way as well. I guess one of the questions would be, if you painted it, just any kind of paint and sprucing up would have made it look better than it did before, right? So one of the questions is, could you make it look nice and keep with the current ordinance that we have, with tiny signs and, signs for each building and things like that? And I think I really like the way it's done with the large murals. One of the realities is that we have essentially this gigantic cinder block wall that faces, a major traffic corridor in Oxford. And I think that using it to put a large mural, a lot of color, something I think is pretty tastefully done, is a really nice way to take what would otherwise be a very, very large, very ugly chunk of real estate and turn it into something that looks artful, it looks tasteful, it looks kind of nice. So I like that. My concern with lots of tiny, tiny signs would be that when you come into Oxford from the north, on one side you're looking at a big box store, and on the other side it would look like we're looking at a gigantic strip mall. And I think that the way it's done right now, with the murals, it looks like this is kind of one large building with some cohesion to it. There's kind of a spirit that you feel like the building has because of the murals. And then you know that there are lots of tenants inside of it as well. But it feels different than just an old repurposed building with a strip mall with loads of clients tacked across it. So I'd say in summary, my wife, my son, and I are all in support of the murals as they are. The large murals, we think they look very nice. We think they're a very wonderful way to cover what could otherwise be quite an ugly building. And we're very glad that, additional businesses are coming into the community. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Pat Robertson, 1755 Metamora Road. I agree with everything that's been said. That I worked at Sea Ray, and it was just a big, empty, ugly building, and now it's beautiful. I love the murals. It was just so neat. I was so excited when I saw what they were going to do with that building. It's a place for families, and thank God we've got it. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Actually, she was one of the ladies that come to my mind when I talked to her in the den that day. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you guys are
Can I get your name, please?
This. I'm Rick Norris, 1835 Squaw Lagoon Drive, Oxford. Everybody, I've talked to my neighbors to see what they kind of felt about it as well. They really liked it a lot, going from the building that it was to now. I'm just kind of reiterating everything that everybody's already said. They really like the color. It looks inviting. You want people to come in. I think with your smaller signs, excuse me, I think with your smaller signs, it's going to be more of a distraction for people to look to try to see what's there. Then if you have it big, plastered, they can see it, and they just keep going. But I've talked to a lot of the neighbors, and they're We had the petition, and a lot of my neighbors and friends have went aboard and signed it, and I just hate to see it be painted over. I mean, they put so much time and thought to make it look good, to have it be painted over and then put small signs up. So I just hope that you reconsider doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Beth Sumner, 1077 Valley View Drive. My residence is in Clarkston, but I'm one of the owners of Kids Energy Zone. And I'm not going to say anything different than anyone else said, maybe just a little bit different angle. We have about over 1,000 families right now we're blessed to have to come and participate in our business on a weekly basis. And every single one of them that I know of, and I've talked to a lot of them, love it. They love the Legacy Center. When we're open on our off hours, just kind of clean up, we frequently get traffic coming in from the streets and say, wow, I've seen all these murals. What is this? What's going on? This is so cool. So we'll have the opportunity to talk to them about Splash going in and Urban Air and the Yo Club, and everyone up to a T has loved it. But the signs that are very easy, very visual, very easy to see with the wall paint are what's cueing them to come in. So I personally, I'm convinced this is a wonderful asset for the community. Like everyone's saying, it's a wonderful asset to the families in the community. And I do agree with Christian. If we didn't have those murals, that it would be a significant hardship. I can attest. We were there before the Legacy Center, and I tried to get signage on the road, one of those wall signs. I couldn't because of the MDOT restrictions. So we did get, we did have a signage permit, and we did have one of those blackboard signs up on that, but no one really knew what we were doing, and the building was horribly dilapidated and ugly, okay? So our business didn't prosper for 3 or 4 years that we were originally in there, okay? Until Christian came and started, changing the physical appearance of it. And now we're doing better, and we're very, very blessed. And we just really want to help everybody prosper. And at this point in time, I'm convinced this is just a wonderful asset, a unique, exceptional asset to the Oxford community. And the signs, they make it. A lot of people have talked about it. You kind of feel a different spirit when you walk up, and that's true. You do. It's just a whole different feel, and it is a feeling of safety. It is a feeling of community, and actually, it's creating community. Not just within the Legacy Center, it's creating community in Oxford. It's creating community, pulling people in from Lake Orion. It's creating community, pulling people in from Brandon. It is a central a place, and it would be a shame. It would be a tragedy if it lost that look and feel. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else before I close the public hearing? Yes, ma'am.
I was afraid you wouldn't be able to see me. Cindy Wheeler, 40 Hovey Street, Oxford. And I wanted to address the Legacy Center on 2 perspectives. One, 25-year resident of Oxford, spent many years driving by that ugly building, so we were thrilled. I think that we've seen quite a bit of evolution in the village of Oxford, in the Oxford area, since we moved here, and I think that the murals and the Legacy Center concept really represent what Oxford is becoming. It's fun, it's family-friendly, it's vibrant, it's dynamic, and that represents all of that. And with 24 being such a main thoroughfare, it's either your first impression or your last impression of our town. And I think it's a great representation. I also wanted to look at it from the perspective of I work with one of the businesses that is now in the Legacy Center, Soothe Your Soul. For 5 years, we had a downtown location. We had a regular well sign, and up until the day we moved, I can't tell you how many times we heard, "I never knew you were here." So these signs attract attention. They don't distract because I can glance at the sign going 55 miles an hour and know that there's karate there, that there's pool, that there's yoga. And just keep in mind that it's not just the Legacy Center. These are all small businesses, all individual, unique, community-based businesses. And this, without signage, it's really going to dynamically impact all of these businesses negatively. So these businesses are what make our community special. So I think the signs would help keep that spirit.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Good evening.
Hi, Jim. Jack Curtis, 195 Grampian Drive. It's kind of interesting. I talk about the 5 jewels of Oxford. I talk about the village. I talk about the parks. I talk about our schools. I talk about our fire department. I have 4 children that went through Oxford High School. They live around the world. I had one just home from Germany on July. And he said to me, he says, wow. He says, you guys took an old manufacturing building and made it into a rec center? I said, no, we didn't do it. We've been trying for 5 years to get somebody to move in there and buy it and reclamate this place, and we didn't do it. I said, an individual came who spirits entrepreneurialism throughout the community. And he said, well, how'd you get those signs passed? I said, we really didn't. I said, I look at them as murals, Brent. I said, as a lieutenant colonel, I said, you know what's going on here. You made a decision. You thought they were approved. They weren't. But what happened is you take all the non-conforming things that happens with that building. You would never get somebody to come in there and tear it down. We were fortunate enough to have somebody come in there and renovate it and use an innovative process to put murals up. Yes, freedom of speech acts have all changed, and we're driving towards new ordinances in our community. All I'd ask is that this board look at favor in what we've done with a blighted building in our community. I know that we have residents here that border on Stony Lake. They've been living there looking at bulldozers and piles of steel and dilapidated paint peeling buildings. I know that Mr. Mills has worked to garner a water easement for fire suppression with that community. I don't think there's many people that are adverse to this mural system that he has up there, but the limitations he has on him with that building being so close to MDOT right away, the limitations of height, the limitations of distraction of drivers, we have to be concerned about the residents and distracting them with all the lightings and monument signs and things. If we put a monument sign up, it would be on the side of the building, it would be lit. So I think there's a lot of consideration on the developer and the residents in trying to make another jewel in our community work. There's 35,000 people a day that drive by that. All I can think of is with our school system, with what's going on here and the number of children that are going through this facility and adults and what it's presenting, it's providing jobs, it's providing recreation. It's not detrimental to our parks and rec because we don't have a trampoline park in Oxford. They have one there. But if you don't know it and a mural's up there and a sign, it's not adversarial, I would suggest. So for years, we've tried to get that building cleaned up and moving forward. I do not believe that this murals and the signage that's up there is detrimental to our community. I think it's a great benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir.
My name is Gaines. I'm part of Stony Lake Drive, but I also wanted to talk as a citizen. Kelly, I appreciate some of your questions you asked. There's no doubt from what we've done, and I live in Stony Lake, it's much improvement over what was the Odyssey Center. So we're grateful for that. I think the murals are tasteful. I think we've all kind of agreed that that's a definitely better alternative. The only thing I want to ask as a professional person, as a business person, someone who lives there, is I always worry about scope creep. I know, Christian, you mentioned you don't think that there would be monumental signs requested at some point, but we always concerned about monumental signs with neon lights. I go through the Oxford Bank every morning when I go to work, and some of the signs are quite bright in the evening. So I think from what being asked today, we're saying the mural signs, I don't think anybody's opposed to it. It's done, it's tasteful, the brown on the building and taupe is very nice. We're just concerned about any scope creep in the future, and that's what I'm just kind of talking about, just future. I know that tonight is just about those signs, but one of the concerns is just any of that. I think that's one of the concerns that we have, or maybe the lighting on the west side of the building that could affect the residents who live on Stony Lake. Again, I know that's not part of it tonight, but as the zoning board, I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, that of course what's up to discussion tonight, I don't think we have a problem with. Done tastefully, very nice, definitely better than whatever we had before. But that's the only thing that we want to put consideration is as we go forward in the future, are some of those kind of concerns that I know that it's against the regulations, but as any post, someone could come back and ask for those kind of variances. So that's all I ask. But again, thank you for your concern, and thank you for what you do for our board and the city.
Thank you for your comments, appreciate it. Anyone else?
I just wanted to answer one question about lighting, since it's come up quite a bit. First of all, thank you to our neighbors who've been very respectful and very supportive of our process here, and will continue to be the same. So one of the questions on the lighting, we don't want lighting that's going to be glaring into the community. We're very cautious on, how that lighting projects. We only need it to, light up the parking lot per the ordinance. So really the lighting plan is just for safety, and it's per the ordinance on a site plan. So hopefully that brings some comfort.
Okay. Well, thank you. With that being 8:10, I will now close the public hearing, bring it back to the board. In our documents that we received, we did receive a letter from our planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman, that is dated August the 3rd, 2016. I don't know if you want to read that into the minutes, or you just want to acknowledge that we received this from Carlisle Wortman. This is one that Brian Outman had provided us.
Yeah, I think the applicant has one, doesn't it?
Mr. Mills, you did receive a copy of this letter?
I don't think so.
Maybe we should read it then, because that way the public has it.
Okay, Secretary, have at it.
I'm not the secretary.
Oh. The Secretary gets to read.
Yes.
Well, I can do it. No problem. I'll do it. Not a problem. I will do this. This is a memorandum from Carlisle Wortman dated August the 3rd, 2016. It's related to the Legacy Center sign variance request. The applicant is requesting a variance on a pre-existing signage installation on a building. The applicant has installed a total of 6,936.16 square feet of signage on the building without a sign permit. A sign permit was submitted to the township and was denied. The wall signs have been painted on the building. There are both signs are advertising the business, and the business also, the sign is identifying services offered in the building. Therefore, the graphic on the building of the sports players constitutes signage. The graphics have been tested in previous court cases, and the courts have established them as advertising. A majority of the businesses have individual entrances. Some of the businesses are internally located inside the building and serviced by common entrances. The ordinance treats business as a part of a multi-tenant structure differently depending on whether the businesses have a common entrance or individual entrances. The property is zoned C2, general commercial. Therefore, the ordinance permits 2 square feet of signage per lineal feet of frontage of the building. The ordinance also requires that only one wall sign be permitted on the premise or a business. The applicant has placed 25 signs on the buildings on the east, the west, the south sides of the building. The building is 880 feet long along the front facade facing M24. Therefore, under the multi-tenant arrangement with individual entrances, the applicant would exceed the maximum permitted per tenant, which is capped at 150 square feet. Additionally, many of the logos represents multiple wall signs per tenant, which is not permitted without a variance. Therefore, if the ZBA makes a motion to grant a variance, it would be based upon the plan submitted and the areas provided. Any additional signage would require an additional variance above to what the ZBA originally grants, if they choose to do so to approve the request. The ZBA has the option to modify the request, to only allow certain signs, deny the request entirely, and require the applicant to comply with the ordinance. Please let me know of any questions. Signed, Brian Ottman, Carlisle Warman. Any other correspondence that we have?
Do we want to cover the non-conforming sign that we have the other one?
Well, there's a violation about that right now.
Yeah, I guess we can ask if that's going to be removed.
Okay.
Can we ask?
Yeah, please.
Question.
Mr. Mills, if you are in receipt of a violation on, this was issued on the 4th of August. Are you aware of this?
Yes.
Okay. You have a question?
Yeah, my question was that, one of the things that when I saw that sign, when you pull in, actually I saw it, and when I pulled in, it appeared as though if you were going to the McDonald's, you weren't even supposed to be in that parking, and that's all shared access. That was all designed by Planning Commission. So the location of that no trespassing sign doesn't seem to accomplish what the purpose is, and it's kind of in your face, so to speak, the way it's aimed. It should really be very direct, just the parking should be in the parallel direction to where or perpendicular to the parking there. But it's also very big. Is that going to be replaced and moved?
Well, we'll be actually striping that lot and making that a fire lane. The purpose for that is we have these huge trucks that come in, and it's been an issue from the beginning. So you'll have a piggyback truck. They like to go to McDonald's, but they can't park in their lot. So they drive through our lot, in front of gymnastics, circle around, and then park in front. And it's really a danger. And so it's a danger to there's a lot of people now who come from the building, go to McDonald's, and, it tears up our parking. So there's a number of reasons why I put it up there. McDonald's has approved us to put that there, but I think making that a fire lane will enable us to have those trucks towed and put some more enforcement behind it. So I'm open to, relocation to that, but really, we actually take pictures of the truck with the no parking sign and the violation sign, and we send it to the owners of the business. So if you have any other recommendations for it, we're happy to take those.
It seemed it would be more effective if they were actually along the side where they're parking, not as they're pulling in.
We just wanted to know as they're pulling in that they
when
know
they're
that.
pulling in, a trucker knows he's not in the McDonald's lot. They already got that. But if they're parking and the sign is like right parallel to them, that's a little bit more.
Yeah, well, we're happy to make that change.
Okay. All good?
On that one, yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 7 of our meeting procedure, findings of fact pursuant to Article 17, Section 17 point air variances. I give the applicant did a good job going through those. I'd like to get our opinion on those. So
Can we have some general discussion?
we can have some general discussion.
Okay, so
Sure.
some things I want to bring up. All right,
Okay.
some things that I want to bring up. Been looking at this a long time. It's always a hard job to sit on ZBA because, the purpose of this board is to enforce the ordinance. That's what we're here for. And so there has to be a very clear and compelling reason to not follow the ordinance that this community has voted into place. So there's a body of people sitting here, but thousands of people said that the ordinance is good. So that's why there's that balancing test. So it's not an easy job to sit here, but that's why we're here to listen to everybody. This facility before was a gymnastics place. This isn't a total new concept for that. My kids, went there when they had the trampoline in the gymnastics place, and it was nice having that. There's no doubt it's nice having that in the community. Wanting to regulate the signs doesn't mean I don't support the Legacy Center. Again, that's just, part of being in this job. We have to evaluate everything. Looking better is not necessarily always a justification to grant a variance. I'm going to give an example of the Burdick Street landscaping. Many of you remember that was a lumberyard, and it was in pretty bad shape. And it went through a couple different uses, and it turned into Burdick Street. And before they opened up, they bricked it, and it looks like a beautiful building that's an asset to the village and will be forever. And that's the case if somebody would have said before, well, let's just give it a little facelift for a little paint, because it looks better, you wouldn't have achieved what you have in your village today. And, that village complements our township. So that's also something I keep in mind. Sometimes higher standard is better than just saying looking better, and that's kind of a planning principle too, that looking better isn't always good enough. We should ask for a little bit more and be equitable in terms of what we would ask for any new business coming in, competing with your use. So if somebody was going to come and build a building, they'd have to conform to our current commercial standards and all of the regulations and the site plan regulations, the lighting and the signage. So that's something that we keep in mind too, that equitable portion, that somebody's going to compete with you in this town, we should be fair when we apply these rules. I want to make sure that, when we're going through this process, we're looking at all the signage that you have, so there's a set point in time today. We know exactly how many signs you have on your doors, your windows, and your walls, on your monuments, and that wouldn't including the no trespassing signs. Those are regulated separately as long as they comply with that. When I went through the ordinance itself, to me, and this is to the board, looks like we have a variety of different components of the ordinance. As I understand it, we are allowing generally one sign, and there's a little bit of conflict, and I'm wondering what the board feels about this too. One sign for each tenant, and then like an additional sign to be shared by multiple tenants using an entrance. So I read it different ways. The first reading says one sign of 150 feet, but then when you read it again, it says multiple tenants can have a sign as long as they each have an entrance, and then those sharing an entrance would get a sign. So in this case, I myself would be reading it as 5 separate entrances, and 3 main entrances would be 8 entrances. That's just my interpretation as I was reading this. And I'm looking at 9.8J, 1 through 5. So 2 is that each of those shouldn't exceed 150 square feet. 3 is the front-facing component, where it's saying that they're counting the signs that face the front, not as much the sides. 4 is the height shall not exceed 1/4 of the building height. So if this were granted, we're also would be granting a variance to that for anything that exceeds 1/4 of the building height. And also 5 is on the horizontal distance, half of the width of the building can't be exceeded in total signage. So I don't know that would add up to half. I didn't look like it from that because we didn't have square feet ones. Some other components that I looked at on this from an equitable standpoint in terms of the community would be get my notes on that there. The signage itself, being the nature of a painting, fades. I know from being on Planning Commission, we do a lot of thought and effort as to building materials, like, for example, TSC. We talked about what type of brick and the aesthetics on that. So on the mural, I'd like to, if we're considering doing this, to discuss the maintenance. How are we going to prevent it from the paint from fading and peeling? What is the applicant going to do to prevent that? If it's fading, if it's peeling, who's going to bear the cost of enforcing that? That's another thing that the township, and I've been here many years, I know what happens over the years. We get stuck on the township trying to enforce something like that, and that costs the entire community. Off-site signs. I want to make sure that we're not advertising for things that are off-site, so that the signage should relate directly to what's going on in that building. And when you're changing the signage, how is the community going to bear the expense of that? Because obviously there's going to need to be someone from the township to come out to make sure that it doesn't change in size. We can't necessarily regulate the content based on that Court of Appeals, from my understanding, of the actual mural. And just for what I'm talking about, there's a Court of Appeals case that basically says we can't regulate what wording people put on the sign. We can't use what is written on the side to determine if we're going to allow the sign or not. So a mural is a sign just as a written word is a sign. So they're all considered signs, whether it's a picture or an actual, sign with, like, for example, Health Quest versus a picture of a fish or a gymnast. So they're all signs. So when the applicant proposes to change those, I would like to make sure that the cost is borne by the applicant and the owner of the property when the township officials have to come out and remeasure and make sure it's done, because I don't want the community to constantly be faced with that cost. It's something that is helping this property and helping the applicant, not so much, the others. And the most important thing is also making sure that when we do this, that it's equitable for the people that will be, the other people in the community, the other residents and the other businesses, so that, should they want to open a business, that they have the equal opportunity. And I have to consider, if we give this to this, are we going to give it to everybody who asked? We have a lot of other businesses that are similar, that came in with multi-tenant uses. Salvation Army is one of them. Right now, they're single on the top, but they have availability down on the lower level for others. So they're up close to the road, the same thing. That's something we want to see at that side. We have an industrial plaza on Glassby that has a lot of uses that I see transferring over. That industrial use is going down. It seems like the commercial use is going up. Same kind of thing can apply there. So I want to make sure when I'm envisioning this, I'm envisioning all the potential uses that we could have in Oxford and how it would change. But I'm also balancing that this is unique and needed in the community as well. So there's just a lot of factors. I'm just letting everybody know what goes into this. It's a big picture decision that impacts us for a long, long time. All right, thanks.
I do echo your comments. I mean, there are rules in place for this. The challenge for us is obviously the moving target. We have what we have in front of us. This is a snapshot and picture in time, and where the changes, when and if they do occur. I echo your comments related to the maintenance of them. Yeah, and then restriction of anything off-site. I totally agree with that. It's just, how do we put something in black and white for our code enforcement people to make it such it is, I made the reference to changeable copy. It is changeable by virtue of a paintbrush. We're used to a different type of changeable copy, is what we see. So that's going to be the challenge for us, is to put this in some cohesive manner that doesn't create a constant code enforcement issue for the staff going forward. Any other comments from board members?
No, I agree. I don't have a real, I guess, a strong flavor that the applicant has a drop dead or a real clear percentage or what the variance is, because there's multiple variances we're looking at. Callie went through multiple of them in Section J, and if I can add even four, or actually Section J6 with the height, right? The top of the wall sign shall not be higher than whichever is lowest. The maximum building height is specified for the district in which the sign is located, the top of the sills at the first level of the windows above the first story. And the last one is the height of the building facing the street on which the sign is located. So that's another variance that we're going to be looking at. So there's multiple variants. I just don't have a real clear of what we could provide to our ordinance officer to make that determination, and then the other things that we had questions on too. I don't want to reiterate those, but those are some of the same things that I had questions on as well, with the fading and peeling and off-site signs, that sort of stuff.
Well, kind of going along with that, we did a good job going through all of the purposes in this PowerPoint, but I'd like to add the actual first purpose that was not on here is to prevent the marring in appearance of the township by an excessive number of signs. And we've got, 25 signs that are rather large. And kind of going along with what Callie said, one of my concerns is if we just give a carte blanche here, what if Davy Tree comes in and they want a big sign, and then the next one wants a big sign? And what if Meyer says, hey, I want a big billboard, and they put it up over a weekend, and now they're asking for a variance saying, you allowed it here? I mean, we kind of need to set some boundaries and say, here's what it is.
Yeah, and every case is unique.
Sure.
Every case has to stand in its own light. That's why they come here. Could it happen? Sure. But there are particular circumstances related to this that I think the applicant has explained. I mean, he can't put, right now, he can't put a monument sign in. He can't put a ground sign in.
Sure.
He can't put awning signs in because of the circumstances with that, the right-of-way line runs right against that face of the building. So I think there is some uniqueness there. You know, the murals, I think, really add to the building. I mean, I drove there today and I looked at it and envisioned what it would look like without it. It wouldn't have that excitement, that pulse, you know. Do I think some of the signs could be reduced to meet some of our ordinance requirements? Sure, but again, it's the balance, the equitable balance. You know, does it detract from what it is? And would it detract significantly? And maybe in some instances it would. You know, again, the murals don't bother me. I think it adds that interest to it. You know, and the fact that he can't modify the facade because he's right up against the right-of-way, and MDOT's not going to allow him to do that. Sure, there's things you could do architecturally to create interest. You know, you look at what Meyer have done. They've done something architecturally. It really doesn't have that luxury to be able to do something like that. I think the murals don't bother me, the signs. Again, we have to somehow corral this all together into one cohesive piece of paper that ultimately doesn't create an issue for our code enforcement officer. And I'm not sure right now how to do that, because it does seem like there's a little bit of flux here and what we could have here and there in the future. So I'm not quite sure what to do. So any comments?
I agree with a lot that you said, and, you know, and I think that each case stands on its own, so somebody else come in and say, we did that here, doesn't really matter to us, because each case is unique and stands on its own, and this has happened before, and this building is unique and stands on its own, and I think that I understand what Callie is saying, but I also look at other places like the gas station on Drainer Road. You know, they opened it up, they had kind of a little mini mall going there with signs. Their whole front thing is just signs. I have to drive by that every single day. Am I detracted by that? No, I like it because I know what's changed and what's going in and what they have what their services are inside. I like that. And I don't know how quite that happened, you know, how it did, but it did. And so, and I've never heard anyone say they didn't like it. And I've lived here a long time also, and this whole building is just unique in itself. There's inside offices that don't have outside. They can't put up the monument sign. I think that all has to go into place. Is the paint going to wear off at some time? Yeah, but I'm thinking if the business is doing well, then they're going to keep that updated. I'm hoping they will. Look at the village and town, you know, when their paint goes, they're cleaning it up, and they want their businesses to look nice. I don't think that we can control that, but I think that, to me, I see where this is going. I still, I think that the way it's presented, and I think that was a wonderful presentation of, I certainly got a lot of information in this request. The only thing I wish that they didn't wait and they would have gotten their permit first. I don't like that that wasn't done properly, but it's done. And if I didn't think that was a good idea, I would say, yeah, we paint over everything. Too bad, you shouldn't have done that. And we've done that before. That's come up before. People have things built and they've got to take it down. But in this situation, I think that the murals and stuff, I think it's a good thing. It's, my opinion. And sitting on the ZBA, yes, we're here to enforce the rules, but that's why they have a ZBA, because every case, you can't fit everything into one little box. It just doesn't work. That's why we have a ZBA, because things come up that, need a change, and they need a variance, and it's reasonable. So that's where I stand on it.
Is everything up except for Splash right now, or is there more going in?
Mr. Mills?
What's on the building right now?
That's,
'Cause I got the impression there was more.
I'm sorry, the question is how many more tenants are moving in?
No, in
How much
terms
more
of-
signage?
How much of all the painting and the signage that you have now, including what's on the doors,
Yeah,
how much more will be added?
well, as it relates to, we'll say murals, right? I think it's
No,
just,
my question is how much more signage? That includes murals, windows, doors, everything.
well, as it relates to Splash, they haven't put their sign up. So that's, Splash needs to put their sign up. And, we have empty tenant spaces in the east side. So I do have a suggestion potentially that could help with this, because I understand where you're going. Like, it's not carte blanche, right?
But the thing is that if we're going to be adding a lot more, I think that the residents are seeing what's there and saying they like it. Maybe,
As far as
unless we
the,
have a clear picture, if there's more, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, we want to know a quantification for
Yeah.
purposes.
No,
I mean,
there-
Mr. Mills, if things change,
yeah,
things change. We all know businesses come and go.
that's right.
But we want to, if we're going to quantify what signage is allowable from today
Let's-
going forward, we have certain dimensions. We know, we have an understanding, our code enforcement people have an understanding.
Yeah.
Should there be an issue, they have something they can work with.
So as far as the murals are concerned, I would say I'm 99% finished with the murals. I don't have, and the only reason I say that is because, and this was just my idea, was to, they may want something to represent a swim school in the back, like on the front of their building. But, it's really just to enhance their entrance. And frankly, cars aren't driving by, and it's not a distraction, and really the only person that would see that would be McDonald's or behind McDonald's. We do have two other spaces on the east side that don't have tenants in them. And then you have like the micro offices. So, my recommendation maybe, is that, for any of the open spaces, there's no more open spaces. Like, I'm not building any more spaces with separate entrances on the east side, to answer that question. So the front of that building is complete. We may not have tenants in all those spaces, but the front of that building is complete. So maybe we could say for the business, we'll call those actual signs representing the business. We can, have them, kind of represent what maybe the Yo Club, under 200 square feet, something like that. If there's an additional sign that's going to go on the east side to represent the empty spaces, but there's only a couple of them. And then you have the micro units, which would be very small signs.
I'm going to re-ask my question.
Okay.
In a different way.
Sure.
Because you talked a lot, I'm still confused. So, the variance requested is 6,936 square feet.
That's correct.
Is that constitute everything that's there now,
That's correct.
not including what you're going to add?
That's for all the existing businesses that are in the building now, plus the murals.
So, that's the paintings we see now and what we see on the doors and windows.
That's correct.
That's not including what I think, right in the beginning, I asked if we're going to add more, and it changed just a little bit.
Well, murals, no. If there's a business going in that's, that rents, like, there's a corner space, I'm going to need to put a sign up for that building.
So when you're saying put a sign up, where? I know you're visioning some, I'm trying to
Yeah,
understand
no, it
what
would
you're
probably
visioning.
be above their entrance.
Just a thought that I had.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
Yes, a painted sign.
Right, we have what you have here, you have what you provided us here.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm just trying to see that
what-
6936 is what we already see on the building.
that's correct.
Not a surprise, like,
But-
oh, wait, that included 5 murals that weren't there.
I think generally this board is in favor of this project. What I would like, and what I think is important, because we're gonna have to live with this for a very long time, and not make this a code enforcement issue, and you having to come back and forth to us. What if you were to take a deep breath, a long look, think about what exactly you all want and provide that to us. I mean, I'd hate to table you, but I'm suggesting that you think about exactly, I think this board's in favor of it, but we want to know quantitatively what it's going to be. So you know, we're going to do one here, possibly one there. Come back to us with best guess. Your best guess, because right now, the splash sign is not on here, it's not a part of this.
Right, we had residents.
And you don't know what size is that going to be.
Yeah.
So, let me understand your recommendation. Your recommendation is to maybe take this list of the existing murals and signs, and then we'll call them open spaces, right? And state that we would,
I'd do you one better. I want to see the elevations, the building elevations with the murals on it. And if you don't know what the content's going to be, then just
Put a
have a square
Dimensional box,
footage,
square,
dimensional
circle,
box
yeah.
with future.
well, one of the things that we could do, which may save time from coming back, is, you know, I could agree to a size not to exceed for just the empty spaces that are there.
I would be more comfortable, and it was something I was coming in, actually, he said exactly what I was thinking. I really want to see elevations. I don't want to see the plan view. I want to see the elevation view with the current murals that are on there boxed out for square footage, so that we know exactly what square foot those are, where they are in relation to the elevations. I want something at a point in time that is very easy to enforce if there's a change.
Sure.
So you have a format to work within,
Okay.
and we know what that is. It's a simple thing for you to go back, take the pictures. You can either take a picture in Photoshop, as long as we have, you know, for me, elevation views, and some other things I'd like to see in writing that would make my job a lot easier would be, like I said, how are you going to self-regulate that? You know, are you agreeing to make sure that you pay? And this board, too, I don't even know how they want to handle changes. For me, I'm assuming that we would allow changes within that
Yes.
that area, so that, you know, you would have a written agreement that you would pay for the the inspection of that when you go to file for a change. There have to be something in writing how you're going to do that change, because what we're doing here is going to apply if we do this elsewhere. I'm trying to set up a process that works for you, but also we can apply fairly. So, you know, how do you propose making sure that the community doesn't pay when you want to change your signage to make sure that it's legal?
Like a $25 fee.
I think our inspector's a little more than that.
$30, Kelly.
There's a little more that I know. But maybe that's something you can talk to Deanna or the building department on what it would cost, even the engineer, to do a simple review of a change in the signage. Or it could be something that the planning commission would even review, because that would be something that's generally in their ballpark. And then
It would be nice not to have to,
it would be cheaper to do it in-house than in planning
Yeah, I
commission.
mean,
Yeah,
there's
to
really no
go
reason
back
for it to go to a
planning
planning commission. It's an
commission.
administrative function.
It's just other options.
Right.
And then an agreement that there would be no off-premise signs. I don't want signs advertising.
when you say
something
off-premise
else.
signs, what do you
Meaning
mean?
that whatever sign here has to relate to the business that's within.
Oh, of course.
So it doesn't become a billboard.
Right,
Yes.
right. And then also on your elevations, any of the window or door signs that you have, just a box, you know, for the square foot of where, if you already have it laid out, that's great. If you don't, just a box and the general description of what'll be in there, like a logo or something, so that when we go to do your C of O and your final and all that, we've got a picture of what it's supposed to look like. If it doesn't match, then you'll talk with the building department.
Yeah, if you don't
on
know
that.
what it's going to be, it's a dimensioned area that we know. It
That's
just, it makes our job easier. We understand what we're getting, and then when it goes to code enforcement, they have it. We have a record of it. That's what I'm trying to accomplish here.
Understood.
I'm not trying to table you just for the sake of tabling it,
Right.
because I really like coming here every.
Right.
It'll also save you time from coming back to it.
Yes.
Because you have the rear sign that you're going to put up, and there's also variances, or you'd probably be.
You guys get a variance for that as well.
That's correct.
So I just wanted to, kind of throw that in to make it into your package so that I know and the board knows what we're voting for, right, or against, right? So there's a clear understanding. That's all.
Okay.
Is there going to be anything in there, square footage or size-wise, for, like, say, the gymnastics moves to Lapeer, the next tenant comes in and wants 2 feet bigger here, 3 feet bigger here? Is it
It'll be set by this.
Okay.
My idea is that would be set by that elevation study.
Okay.
That box represents the area to work with.
Yeah.
They
And
would
then-
stay within those bounds.
Yeah.
Right, you'd stay within
And
those
if they want to change it, they have to come in front of us. Again.
That'd be a fair thing.
One thing that would make me happy to see is also a agreement as to maintenance. And I know Ms. Belair said that we actually can on this board. If we're giving you a variance and we're waiving our rules, we can definitely set strict standards for maintenance of it. And it's great when businesses are doing good, the signs are kept up, but we have a lot of signs in Oxford that go into disrepair because the business isn't doing so good. We need that ability to make sure that you keep it up. You know, a faded mural doesn't do us much good. If it's peeling and not looking good, it's not accomplishing your thing either. So in that case, paint might be a better option than a faded mural that doesn't look so good. So, for me, that's just me.
Right, I wanted to make sure, that's just for you.
Yeah, that's just me.
Because I don't think that's right to enforce any kind of maintenance.
It's in our ordinance.
I would be opposed to forcing that, a maintenance on somebody's property like that.
Well, our ordinance requires signs to be kept up. We just don't have a whole lot, but we don't have a whole lot of mural type
But
things
it's
in our
been-
ordinance.
But the ordinance requires you to keep up your signs.
I guess my point is that this type of sign fades and degrades a lot quicker than a standard sign,
Yeah,
and I'm
but
just trying to
that's
provide for that.
subjective. Your version of it's stated, in my version and his version might be four different things.
Agreed.
That's why it's too subjective.
Well, if the ordinance says it has to be maintained, it's already in
Right.
writing.
Right.
We're covered there.
All signs shall be maintained in similar conditions in which they exist at the time of their erection. At a minimum, all signs, awnings, sign paint shall be kept clean of missing or loose parts, free from blistering and peeling paint, and without missing any obsolescence panels. So it's somewhat covered in that.
It is, but when you have this much of a building covered in it, I just don't know. I mean, for me, it'd just be nice to have it spelled out, but if nobody else wants that, I can live with that too.
Yeah, I think it's covered in that. I don't know what any other,
No, I think we're covered.
so, you gonna take us up on our offer of postponement?
Yes.
Do we have to make a motion of that, or?
When is the next meeting?
Yeah, I think we do. I would make a motion then to postpone this until the applicant submits the information he'd like to present based on our discussion today.
So for the next meeting, oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, I was gonna s-
One sec.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next meeting, we meet the second Mondays of the month, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be September, I don't have a calendar.
Monday after Labor Day be what, the 12th?
September 12th.
12th?
If you're ready for that meeting, or you go to the next one.
September 12th, that's correct.
Okay.
12th.
So when do we have to have this in to be on the September 12th meeting?
Well, it really only comes to us, so we need it for our packet, and those are usually ready, Deanna, by 2 weeks prior?
September 7th. No later.
Then September 7th. And so just to clarify,
Yeah.
really I'm coming back, are we starting this entire presentation over? We're just coming back
No.
to,
We're coming from right here forward.
okay.
You
Yeah.
already had the public hearing.
It was
just
very
now.
nice, but we didn't want to listen.
It was
I have
lovely, Christian, but no, thank
2,500
you.
more comments for your pleasure. First of all, thank you so much for your time and consideration tonight. Oxford's been very fair to us, and we really appreciate
Thank you, we appreciate all you've done, really do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
All
luck
right,
with
thank
everything.
you.
All right. Moving on. Board member comments, any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that Terry Adams is still missing. She walked away from a group home on North Hummer Lake Road. She's been missing since last Friday. She is a person at risk. She's approximately 60 years old, 5'3", 115 pounds, missing her front teeth. Anybody has seen her, please call the police and report that. And please pass the word.
Thank you. Any other comments? Up for a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are done.